So I'm seeing a little bit more Tether FUD out here, which is kind of, I think, bringing in the whole question of stable coins. What are they backed by? There's different kinds there's all these different classed stable coins. And looks like the Eric Rosengren, president of the Federal Reserve of Boston, was raising the red flags around this. So I don't know if it's just intentional Tether FUD or if it's just the latest and greatest of stuff to kind of, get everybody unsettled. What are your views on this, Mr. Doubles?
Well, I think, there's always going to be all these kind of news, right? We call it as FUD, right?
Yes.
And, it doesn't matter. China banning mining, yeah. And then after that, there's going to be like positive news, negative news, Elon Musk tweeting stuff that we will be sharing later down the session. Like, the craziness of, all this. But overall, it is always that, right? But we have to look at the big picture and have look at what we are trying to do, right? To liberate people, to get more people into crypto and DeFi. And, just that itself is actually good enough, right? All these FUD stuff, it doesn't bother us. We are in here for a mission, baby.
Well, let's dig into it. I mean, you and I, we're on the same team. We're all always bullish, but let's dig a little bit deeper into the topic. So let's unpack some of the stablecoin FUD, specifically around whether it's Tether, because I know Tether years ago, if you remember, I remember that again it was this whole auditing thing, and I know from what I gather, maybe you can correct my memory, but they didn't really have a full audit. You know what I mean? It was kind of like a faux audit. They hired several. Remember, they're rotating these auditors, because it's supposed to be like an independent third party. Now, I haven't been following it that closely. It's kind of like one of those things that are always hanging out there. Have you been following, sort of any of the Tether stuff or any of the other stablecoin sort of news?
I mean, I follow once a while, right? When I look at certain big milestones or like big news that might could impact, right? But I think generally speaking, I don't think there's anything crazy about it. It's just that it's just normal news as usual, right? Plus, we are like focusing on like CDs exchange. So, but anyway, I think in terms of like the stablecoin and the USD, I think there are various type of stable coins, right? Which is the USD denominated stable coins on the crypto world, right? Yep. I mean, of course, the biggest right now is like USDT, but we also know that the second biggest will be like USDC, followed by DAI. Yep. Several of them, and all of them have different mechanics. I believe that this will continue to be the same case, and I think there will be even more. It's just a matter of time when the market will continue to grow to be bigger. I think the real question is this: would the Chinese renminbi CBDC launched by China soon going to have any impact in terms of like the US dollar dominance? That will be interesting to see.
That is interesting, and I think actually that kind of brings the point. It circles back to the USDT issue, because essentially it's kind of like a faux CBDC, right? So. Because that's essentially how the CBDCs are issuing. I mean, this is essentially what they're going to be testing out, right? So, and I think that was made in the article that we were sort of referencing now around the Tether FUD. So how a lot of the governments are really taking these CBDCs very seriously. I'm still trying to wrap my head around the mechanics of how that's going to work. And I know China's the first one out there looking to displace the dollar dominance. Really, really early days. So maybe Tether will be the least. I don't know. At this stage, it is, again, it's a bit fun-ish, but it's hard for me to unravel that from all the other shit that's going on. With the CBDCs and of course, our big arch nemesis, the fiat dollar. So
that is the right discussion to have.
Yeah.
I mean, stable coin, whatever FUDs, all these like discussions to have is revolving around like the crypto itself. But look at the amount of fiat and the debt in the market, and all this liquidity, we call it, and all this capital, it's going to be in the market, right? That is actually the issue, right? With all this debt being printed and minted like ferociously by the central government, how is that going to impact on everyday human and everyday people, right? I remember the news like today. Somebody was saying that, hey, for the first time, Jeff Bezos, the CEO of Amazon, retired. Wow, like it's kind of like good for him, like he's going to the space for the first time on his own via his like investment onto the rocket. But the guy is like worth hundreds of billions, right? When like a lot of people that we know are struggling. I mean, is this something wrong with our system that we can see that this is happening? To be seen. So I think that is the bigger discussion to be had.
Yeah, yeah, I did see that about the 200 bill flowing out there. Well, rather that he's. Yeah, I remember that commentary. I don't really. I was still, I'm so infused. Obviously bombarded with all the news. It's hard for me to parse one thing from another, but it is interesting commentary.